Hey deck industry, it's Glenn Mathewson here, and this is a video you really need to listen to. Take the chip off your shoulder and listen to me for a minute. I've been coming on all these Facebook pages and LinkedIn groups and talking a whole lot of talk, trying to convince you guys to learn about this 2021 IRC. This is the latest international residential code to be published. And of course, in doing so, because this is how I make my living, code consultant and educator, I've been showing you about my 2021 deck code book, Deck Construction, published by ICC. It gives you all the 2018 and 2021 codes, blah, blah, blah. I'm making this video because I really need you to understand why I'm on here posting all of these things, okay? Let me explain. It's 2015 IRC. This is actually one of the leading adopted codes right now across the country. Many of you working wherever you are in whatever little city in whatever state across the US, you know your code, you say, you understand, you pass inspection. You might be on this 2015 IRC is what your inspectors are using, sort of. Okay, so you know when that book was made? You know when I helped make that, 2015? It was in the year 2012 and 2013. Yeah, that's like what, 7, 8 years ago? 7, 8 years ago, guys, I was writing this code that you know so much of and you want to fight me about. It's old news. Those decisions were made for you long ago. Here's a video clip from good old Glenn in his little bit younger years. Take a peek and see what I mean. This is the creation of your 2015 code in 2013. And this is me fighting back someone else's proposal that was going to prohibit decks completely from within 5 feet of a property line or 5 feet of an accessory structure. Like no deck connecting between a house and over to a detached garage, you know, a little ground level deck. Someone wanted to prohibit that and put a proposal forward. Here's a clip of me doing what I do that none of you guys are doing. So pay attention.
Thank you. Further testimony in opposition.
I was worried about that.
Glenn Mathewson speaking on behalf of the North American Deck and Railing Association. Similar to what the previous gentleman stated, if you can put in your mind's eye an attached garage or other type of accessory structure from a home and a deck connecting between the two, which is a very common construction feature. This would preclude a wide set of stairs from a deck perhaps a couple feet above the ground from being complete from the home to the garage and a simple set of stairs off the side. I believe the final statement at the end of other buildings on the same lot has some significant unintended consequences. Thank you.
Thank you. Further testimony in opposition. Go ahead, sir.
Glenn Mathewson speaking on behalf of the North American Deck and Railing Association. As stated previously, this appears to just outright prohibit all decks from within 5 feet of the structure. The market is full of many deck products that are non-combustible. There's products that apply tile to a wood frame structure. There's also steel frame structures that are very popular in the market. They obviously pose no harm in being close to the property. Ground level decks, again, I stress that a ground level deck as opposed to a upper level deck have different dynamics in how that fire would spread. And I believe this puts the decking industry at an unfair disadvantage for those low-level decks and encouraging more patio paper and other type of structures. This just does not represent the type of technology and choice of products that are available in the market that may preclude the concern of fire spread. Thank you.
Thank you. Further testimony.
All right, you see that? Guy, I look like a little kid. I'm getting my gray settling in nicely. Okay, so that was the development of that 2015 code, right? This is what many of you are on, and I get it. You need to understand this because this is what you have to pass inspection for. But the choices in here of what you have to do, of what the government tells you to do, I was helping make those choices 8 years ago. This is why I'm trying to get you now to pay attention and listen up. Because 8 years from now is when maybe you guys find yourself finally under the thumb of the government with this book. But guess what? I want to show you now what happened from the 2018. Here's the 2018 IRC. And here are a couple clips from the hearings of proposals to modify the 2018 to become the 2021 IRC. Here's a clip from the first hearing, and this is for our major proposal we put forward, RB 184. And this is what expanded the designs that the code provides so that you don't have to get an engineer, expanded them into snow loads. And you'll hear in the video some of my testimony about the awesomeness of the proposal and what it became in the 2021 code. Take a peek. This is from the first hearing where we're speaking, and I'm speaking to a committee.
On the main change itself, RB 184, testimony in support.
Glenn Mathewson, representing the North American Deck and Railing Association. So beyond the increasing this to the snow loads, and then as Lauren mentioned, adjusting the cantilever table for the joists, there were two other significant changes to this that are going to be very helpful to the decking industry. The footing table that was included in the 2018 IRC was included with a minimum diameter of 14 inches. No matter how small the design is, whether it's a stair landing, it would have been a minimum 14-inch diameter. In Colorado and in other regions that have frost depth, we're used to narrow and deep piers. The Colorado chapter of ICC for more than a decade has had a building guide where they reference an 8-inch minimum pier, and we have had no performance issues in Colorado with that. So the new table brings in a new column for a 5 square foot tributary area that can handle those smaller little areas like the corner of a stair landing. Imagine an intermediate stair landing that's 4x4 with 4 14-inch diameter piers. So this allows it to be designed closer to the actual loads that would be applied there. The other change that occurred is in the post sizing table. The current post sizing table is very small and very conservative, does not have very many variables. It's based on the largest possible beam and the largest possible joist spans, the biggest possible tributary area you could put on a 4x4 or 6x6. And that limits the heights considerably. So we mirrored the footing table based on tributary area to allow the post sizing to be more appropriate. And as you'll see, it goes from like a 6'9" height up to 14 foot. Again, think about those small landings. The other thing that the post table does is now that it's not, the sizing of the post is not tied to regular solid sawn lumber 2x10s, 2x12s, and how far they can span since it's tied to tributary area. This opens up wood posts to be able to be prescriptively sized for things like steel framing systems, use of glue lambs, use of PSLs. So I urge your support. This is going to help the industry.
Thank you very much for the testimony.
Okay, did you see that? Yeah. Did you know? Hey, if you're on the 2015 IRC, did you know footing sizing got into the 2018? I wasn't there. I was a little burned by the deck industry after getting no support from the first round. So I just left y'all deal with this. And that's when you got the minimum 14-inch diameter piers in this one. Yeah, that's lovely. Now, did you hear my testimony about trying to get rid of that? What about post sizing? You guys like that 8-foot maximum 4x4? Funny, we used to be able to use 4x4s higher than 8 feet. Why is this 2018 IRC telling you that? Well, guess what? Both of those got fixed now for the 2021. But to do that, to fix it for this code that you might not be under the government thumb on that code for years still to come in your jurisdiction, but yet when did that change have to happen? Back in 2019. Who did that for you? Were you there? No, I was there. This is why I'm on here all the time, sharing with you about code. Yeah, pumping up myself, selling my stuff, whatever. I'm egotistical. I know so much. I'm here for you. You think I make much money or any money doing these things? I get a little tiny bit of support from NADRA. All right, let's look at the next video. This now, we failed. In the first committee, the committee turned down 184. There's so much more video to it and other folks that were involved in testimony. There were some errors, some just little errors made by the engineers that were helping us. It's okay, they're human. And we proposed a correction to those in those first hearings, and it was turned down. So the committee turned it down. So we went round 2. Now, hey, at that first hearing, I had to get flown to Arizona, or it was in New Mexico. I don't even remember. New Mexico, it was Albuquerque. I had to get flown there, leave my family, stay at hotels, eat, hopefully make a living and get paid for myself. This stuff doesn't happen for free. And I'm sick of doing it halfway for free. So anyway, Then we had to go, I had to go, Vegas. Oh, so fun, Las Vegas. No, I didn't have any fun because there's no money there for me to go. And you see me wearing some super fancy dress outfit for this. This isn't some huge money making deal I'm doing, guys. This is why I keep coming to you saying, will you listen to me? Will you listen to me? Will you back me up? So here's from the second hearings, okay, when we were now going and we now had to convince the voting membership of the International Code Council, the government building inspector folks, okay? They're the ones that are supposedly no bias, right? They don't make money off selling products or things like that. So in the final hearings, we had to convince the voting government officials, okay? And so here's the first clip of that video. And I want you to listen really careful to this testimony, because this is the one where I think you're really going to understand.
Glenn Mathewson, representing North American Deck and Railing Association. What you see here in RB 184 is really important for the code. And I say this because I spent 7 years as a deck builder in a home rule state. And so I know in a home rule state, the code is a little willy-nilly from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And that was really tough. I had about 30 jurisdictions that I worked in. And as a builder, what I knew what code was whatever the inspectors told me it was. Then I became a code inspector, got into the code business, and realized, oh, there are no codes for decks. No wonder that all these different jurisdictions are coming up with their own ways to try to cover this very, very common construction feature across homes across this whole country. Even in places with crummy weather, they still have decks. And so I realized there was this big disconnect there. And that's when we started working and contributing towards getting prescriptive tech codes. This proposal is large, and there's a lot to it, and it's a lot to take in. It changes the way a lot of jurisdictions have been handling decks because, again, we've had to kind of make this up as we go. The Code Coalition put together a lot of different experiences and knowledge, and together, and with trust and respect for one another, that took time to get to, we've been able to come together and agree with these things and bring them forth to you. And so a little bit, I guess I'm asking also for you to recognize the trust we have for each other. And as you look at this large proposal and may not be able to digest it all today, I'd like you to offer that trust to us. I also want you to think about the importance of having a prescriptive code that is uniform across all these jurisdictions that can help us gain the trust of the people that we serve, the communities, the builders, so they can believe in this code. Thank you.
All right, now, that first testimony right there, that was in opposition to the committee that turned down our proposal. So I am trying to now speak, and we're trying to get the vote to oppose. And so look what happens.
That motion fails 16 to 47. I need a new motion.
Hey, not bad. Like 75% opposed it. Now, what that allowed us to do was bring forward a public comment. And the public comment tweaks and adjusts from the first hearing to try to better satisfy what disappointed the committee. So here's some testimony now for that, where I'm now trying to convince the building officials that are going to be voting this final thing in. Take a peek.
I support a public comment for.
Glenn Mathewson, representing North American Deck and Railing Association. That was great. Lauren gave a good explanation, and I just wanted to clarify a few of those things. Those of you that are in regions that have a frost depth, I'm in the Denver area, and we have a 36-inch frost depth. We dig our piers narrow and deep. And if you look at the 2018, you'll see that at the current table there is a minimum 14-inch diameter pier. And I think that's going to come shocking to a lot of you that are in those regions with more of the pier type of foundation. So definitely look at the importance of, we've reduced that. And in that foundation table, the smallest tributary area was 20 square feet. And as Lauren said, the problem with that is when you got to like a small stair landing, say a 4x4 stair landing, You're looking at a 14-inch, four 14-inch diameter piers, and these things are, the landing's carrying very little load. So we've modified that to include a 5 square foot tributary area. And then the post sizing table. Oh my gosh, the post sizing table is so helpful to what we can do in prescriptive design. As you guys probably know, but don't want to really know, is that without prescriptive design in the code for decks, we should be telling every homeowner, every do-it-yourselfer, every professional that they have to get an engineer for their deck. But that's not happening across this country, because we'd probably all be in the city manager's office getting scolded if we made everyone get an engineer for their deck. So that's the critical importance here, but post sizing has never been there. When I wrote my book for ICC in 2009, for deck construction from the code, it was funny because there wasn't a lot of code. And in that book, there's no discussion of post sizing. This table bases it on tributary area, which can also work for porch roofs. So I just add that there's a lot of use in this. Please consider this proposal and support it. Thank you.
Further testimony in support of the public comment. Testimony in opposition. Seeing none, we'll do a hand vote on the public comment. All those in favor of public comment 4, please raise your hand. Those opposed? That passes. Do I have any other motions? With that, we will vote on them as modified by public comment 4. That passes 77 to 1.
Wow. 99%. 77 to 1 of the people that were willing to vote for that proposal. Now, you think we made a difference? Do you think bringing the voice of the deck industry, you builders, do you think bringing that to the hearings was valuable, was worth it? It had to be done well in advance. And now, whenever you do get your government adopting this 2021 IRC, you're going to see those changes. Guess what, though? Guess when this is now getting changed? Guess when the proposals are due to modify this and prepare the 2024 IRC? January 10th, like 5 months from now. This is the message I keep sending to you. You guys have decks to build. You have inspectors to please right now and homeowners to please right now. You can't deal with trying to develop code for yourself 8 years from now. You know who's doing that for you? Yeah, you do now, don't you? I'm not going to keep doing this for you unless I start getting that support that I need. So if you're an elite deck builder, if you're a pro deck builder, if you're a deck enthusiast, it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up, recognize who I am, what I am doing for you, get up to speed with what I am teaching you in the 2021 IRC. Because if you are giving me feedback from what you know in 2015, you are years late. I can't take your voice to the hearings unless you are voicing from modern code, from what's already been decided. I haven't built a deck for an American consumer in 16 years. Yeah, I know decks, but I don't know what you know about decks. And you don't know what I know about deck code. This one, the latest one, the one that's happening way in advance of you ever facing it. So we need each other here, okay? For me to do what I'm gonna do and what I have been doing, to lay the tracks for you, for your future, and to make sure you are recognized in that and where those tracks are heading, you need to share with me. All right, I decided to cut that clip off. I don't do a lot of editing in my videos because I'm just a real dude talking straight to you. But I got a little ornery, so I went ahead and cut off that part and come back with a little better attitude. You know, sorry, I am human and this does sometimes get frustrating. So I wanted to show you though that, yeah, that's what I was doing in 2019 to get the 2019 for the 2021 code And proposals are due for the 2024 IRC this January. But I also want to tell you about this code. This is the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. This was a brand new code that came out in 2012. And it came out with Section 306 with some whack about decks when they are related and nearby and have something to do with pools. Not just in the swimming pools, but decks around, let's say, a hot tub, right? Well, I saw how whacked up this was. I made a YouTube video years ago. You can see it on my YouTube account. It's called like a slippery deck. And, you know, like most things I do, I just get crickets from the industry on it. Well, this wasn't heavily adopted by governments. Because remember, creating a model code is just creating a suggestion to the government. And then the government says, hey, I like that suggestion. Well, guess what? It's been like 9 years from that. And so now we have a 2021 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. And yes, governments are now adopting this. My city that I live in the Denver Metro, they've adopted this code. And it still has Section 306, and it's still horrible for decks. Just go find out for yourself. It's crazy what is in here for decks. So with trying to continue to do this job for the deck industry, it's not just in the IRC. There's decks in the commercial code. There's decks at ASCE, which American Society of Civil Engineers, where they handle live and dead loads. And I did work for that related to a proposal for loads on deck boards, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot more than just the International Residential Code where the deck industry needs to be represented, defended, and be there in this white-collar environment to be the voice for the backyards of our Americans out there. So, very excited. Last year, during the coronavirus shutdowns, they shifted to doing all virtual online, or it wasn't last year, it was this year. It was earlier this year, sorry. Was the hearings for creating the 2024 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. And so now I'm going to show you a clip, an audio clip, where I was testifying on this pool code for some important stuff that you might be interested in.
Calling SP 13 in support. Glenn Mathewson, floor is yours. Go ahead.
Glenn Mathewson, representing North American Deck and Railing Association. When we looked at this, we tried to figure out, okay, the swimming pool and spa code is meant to address things specific to swimming pool and spas, right? It takes the IRC, and then we go, okay, we got some special rules we need for the hazards that change for pools and spas in proximity to them. And the irony was that the rise and run geometry for commercial stairs actually gets less restrictive by pools, but then for the IRC, for the private backyards across our country, the geometry gets more restrictive. And there's so much missing. I mean, the geometry of stairs is critical, and it's been in our codes for a long time, nosing, uniformity, and then tolerances to the uniformity. This statement, as is, the current code just says that they shall be uniform. But we go to the IRC, we understand we get some 3/8 inch tolerance there. And so it just didn't seem to make any sense, first of all. And then the next part is that whether the deck or the hot tub, it's like the chicken and the egg, which comes first? Sometimes folks have a deck, and then they add to it the hot tub next to it. And why should that now change the geometry of the stairs that maybe come up beside the hot tub and up to the deck? So it just seemed very sensible to reference the IRC for such major construction projects. Thank you.
All right, the motion is to approve as submitted. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 11-0.
I guess that's about it. I guess that wraps up this video. So I don't know. Join the association. Contribute to code. Start a damn GoFundMe or something. I don't expect you to go to the hearings, but I will. Hope you guys found this eye-opening. You might love me, you might hate me after this, you might say I'm an egotistical know-it-all. I really don't care. I'm Glenn Mathewson. That's who I am. This is what I do. I'd like your help. Thanks, and have a great rest of your life in this industry. So the next step is to go to deckcodes.com. This is going to redirect you to a special page on buildingcodecollege.com, my website, and here you can find 12 hours of on-demand education on the latest 2021 IRC. This is how you can support me to keep supporting you